Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. Fourth here. Today we are back with Bruce, but as you probably know, I'm not a Dark States fella. I'm not into the whole goth or Spike Bros aesthetic. So instead, we have someone who's actually not into this aesthetic as well, but had the money to buy the deck. This is Fayete The Fourth.
Hello again.
Alright, so as you probably know, he's the clown that was here for OTT, but you may be wondering, where's OTT? He's coming in Factor Op soon, so just give it time. Today we are doing Diabolos Violence Bruce along with the very good card Jared. So, for those of you who don't know, Bruce is basically the Spike Brothers rep of Overdress, and it's probably one of the best decks in format. I mean, once you see the DBTO2 support, you probably want to say this is maybe the best deck in format. We don't know, but we still think it's pretty good. Any first words?
Honestly, I think this deck might actually reduce your skill in Vanguard as it has done for me. Honestly, I feel like the more I play this deck, the worse decision making I've done. But that's okay because in Overdress, sometimes decision making isn't all you need to win games.
Just check OT now.
Yes.
Okay, so
OT win.
Let's actually start with the right deck. As you know, 0 is Matthew, 1 is this is Steve, 2 is Richard, and 3 is Big Boy Bruce. So let's break them down. We start off with Matt's the starter. If you write second, you draw a card. Simple enough. Then you have this guy. It's Steve. Steve's skill is
it's on right. He gets to call a unit from the soul to the column behind the rank. So basically, where you put your Valkyrion astral plane circle. Yeah, it's that circle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it would look something like this. Then it would be like this and this, right?
Yes.
And then after that, you get to soul charge 1.
Soul charge 1. So you have fun soul charging your over trigger on the first turn.
Very good. The second skill is if you are in final rush against 5k.
So it's a 13k booster. So if you know anything about Dragon Empire, you know that 13k booster with a 10k grade 2, that's a magic number. Wow.
Yep. So this is also magic number booster. We don't really play this card in the main deck for Bruce, as you'll see later, but it's just something fun to keep in mind. Moving on to grade 2, we have Anger Richard. Richard, when he rides on top of Steve, you choose 1 unit. Is it 1 unit?
1 unit from your one unit, and then put into soul, and you draw a card.
You get to draw.
So you never know. Now you may draw your over trigger. How about that?
Interesting. And if you're in final rush, this also gains 5k. So it's a 15k attacker.
Yeah. So if an 8k booster, wow! If you play Dragon Empire, that's a magic number.
Yes, well done. But the thing is that generally speaking, Diabolos has a lot better grade 2 and grade 3 options when it comes to
as we'll get into later.
So honestly, it's not great as a main deck unit, but for its utility, the right line for Bruce is one of the best. Moving on to the big man himself, it's Diabolos Violence Bruce. Bruce has 2 skills. Would you like to explain?
First skill is that you, not Bruce himself, you are in final rush when you are on him during the right phase. So as you know, on the right phase you start on your grade 2 and then you run into grade 3. So that means that technically on turn 3 you are not yet strong enough to be in final rush. Only on the next turn when you are on Violence Bruce, then you are in final rush.
Very good. And the second skill is?
So when you are in final rush, when he attacks, Soul Blast 5, you stand all your front row units.
So as you can see, Soul Blast 5, if you've been playing the right deck correctly, then you generally should have, at minimum, 4 cards in Soul because of the Soul Charge from Steve. So the rest of the deck generally just like, every other Dark Zone, Dark States deck in existence will help you Soul Charge, so it's generally not that bad. So let's actually get started with the deck now that it's quite clear what this does. We start off with the grade 3s. We play 4 copies of Diabolos Violence Bruce. We play 4 copies of Gear Chronic. No, I'm kidding. This is Time Fissuring Fist Colossus, as well as 4 copies of, for you Pale Moon fans out there, if you are actually playing Bruce for some reason, alright, for majority. So let's break it down.
So majority skill is that when you are in final rush, when she attacks,
They can't say, don't move it.
Okay. Put a unit, put a rear guard in the soul. Let's say Time Fusion Colossus is here. You put her in the soul. She gains 10. You draw a card. She gains 10k, and then you soul charge 1. So once again, that already automatically fulfills your 4 soul to become 5. So even if you didn't persona right, you can already unleash hell on your opponent.
Especially because of the fact that it is once per turn So you generally want to time when you want to suck the rearguard and the soul, because you could potentially suck it and then lose an attack or lose a booster. So generally keep this well timed, but majority is still a +2 to soul, and it transfers one card from rearguard to one card in hand, which does help considering the cards you call to board aren't really going to be helping you defensively anymore. Next, we have the huge MVP from the start deck. It's actually Time Fissuring Face Colossus. His skill, I want to say this one. When placed, Soul Charge 1. Then, if you're in Final Rush, Counterblast 1, it gains 15k. So, by itself on turn 4, you're looking at a 28k unit that can swing twice because of Bruce. So, pretty good. Only drawback, it's an on place, so...
Yeah, but then if you think about it, Marjorie's skill is that she actually put one unit into soul. So if you time Marjorie until after Time Fissuring Colossus has made his 2 very big attacks, then he's basically a vanilla on the next turn. So you might as well use him to fund your soul later on.
For stuff like Marjorie or as well as Proto Bulk, they can say that. Proto Bulk, you generally can, suck them into soul, and the vanilla is vanilla no more. So generally this is Bruce's range of grade 3s, quite straightforward and pretty strong. Moving on to the next set, we haven't actually seen any more grade 3, so it appears that this is likely to be the same lineup. Maybe Colossus may get cut because of Ronaldo, but I think beyond that, it's pretty much the same. Moving on to grade 2s, which this is an easy one for me to talk about. We play 1 Richard and 4 of the strongest Jared. So, we've already mentioned Richard, so thank you. Now for Jared. Jared is a card that some of you may not actually recognize because it comes from the Fighters Collection
Festival
Collection, my bad. I'm so old. Festival Collection set. But contrary to popular belief, this is not a card that most Diabolos players can skip on. I'll let you say the skill.
So, once per turn, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. You choose one of your units with Diabolos in their card name, and you give it 10k. Note, this is not gated by Final Rush. So you can, obviously, let's say you're on turn 2. You want to start rushing your opponent. You call him, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. You can either give him or him 10k, then you can start rushing already. So Bruce is no longer a turn 4 deck. He can now become a turn 2 deck.
Very good. Keep in mind that Diabolos is mainly a name shared by Jared as well as the entire right line and some of the triggers, but I mean you won't really be giving 10k to triggers. So, but beyond that, Diabolos is not as rare of a name as you think. It's generally the main archetype name, so a lot of the main pieces in your deck you benefit from it. The 10k from turn 2 and up is definitely a very good boost. The only drawback is really the Soul Blast one, which if used excessively or not well timed, it will cost you your Final Rush Soul Blast 5 big Mega Blast. But beyond that, it's generally not a bad idea to use this card from turn 2 or even turn 3. Especially for your turn 3s, don't you think?
Yes. Especially for turn 3s, you're just sitting on Bruce. He can't really do much on his own because he has to wait one more turn. So being able to pump 10k is definitely helps to pressure your opponent.
Alright. The second skill of Jared is when he attacks, if you're in Final Rush, your opponent cannot intercept. So you see that actually that skill is not very flashy, but it actually helps Jared to remain relevant in the late game because it can still contribute with the whole Final Rush thing. Most cards in the history of this game, if they are designed for the early game, in the late game they kind of become useless or fodder. But Jared's one of the rare few that generally from start to finish, he's just a joy to see on the field. So yeah, if you're a Bruce player, definitely pick him up. He's not something you should or can miss per se. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say about Jared?
Also, but I mean, even though I agree with what Ahmed says about him being very useful even in the late game, but do not be afraid to use him as an intercept in the early game because you're already running so many grade 3 rear guards that require your love and attention in the front row. So if you think you have gotten as much mileage as you can get out of him, or you honestly don't think you can keep paying the Counterblast Soul Blast, then don't be afraid to get rid of him in replace for other rear guards.
Alright. Next up, the next set is the grade 1s. The grade 1s, we play 1 Steve from the right deck. We play 3 of the spell card, Brother's Soul. And then we play 4 PG. We play 4 Presenter. And we also play for Proto Ball. Just out of the way, real quick, two things. We've already discussed this guy, so he's getting out. And now we want to just bring up, this is the upgraded PG. So this is the PG that activates that if you have one or less cards in your hand, it becomes free, right? So generally, we don't have to talk about it. It's just good. Brother Soul is something that you just use for very early soul charge. You can use it from turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, just whatever turn. Out of the box, I just want to say that I understand there are people who play the Steam Gunner Gunbar Gun. Is it Gun? No, not Gunbar Gun.
No,
That's
it's not
the Victor
Gunbar
one.
Gun, no.
I don't know the name, the very gun thingy.
It's the one that in English they accidentally printed it with the Persona right icon.
That one, yeah. I understand that it's a good card for Bruce right now, but honestly, I think that when it comes to set 2, it may end up getting replaced by Mabel.
Yes, I think so.
I'm not too sure.
Because you think about it, the extra drive means an extra draw. So.
But beyond that, really, I mean, yes, it's on place 1 soul charge 1, and it's an 8k body, but really, when it comes to this Bruce deck per se, I think the raw soul charge is more important because you do want to use a lot more of your soul with stuff like Jared. Oh, he keeps flying. Jared, so... Yeah. Generally, I think the Soul Charge 2 is great. But if you do want to play the Grade 1 Gunner, I still think it's not bad. What do you think?
The Grade 1, I mean, like I said, when Mabel comes out in set 2, I think honestly Mabel offers so much more offensive power to Bruce, whereas the Steam Gunner only offers a defensive power and deck filtering. So yeah, you can pretend to be Sarah Snow by DB2 onwards and get your triple drive.
Yes. Alright, now for the rest of the Grade 1s is the ones we've been holding back on. It's Acrobat Presenter and Protoball. So, let's start with Acrobat.
Okay. Acrobat Presenter is very simple. When he boosts Vanguard named Apex, Diabolos minus Bruce, you soul charge 1, and you're in Final Rush, you soul charge 1 again. This is how Bruce can go from Mega Blast 1. Mega Blast 1 and then the game, and then after that he becomes a vanilla into a Mega Blast every turn and your opponent cries in agony as you are attacking with 5 attacks every single turn. Because as you know, sometimes we may not get our cards like Marjorie or Time Fusion Colossus to easily soul charge. So this is our backup. I know many people have been asking me, why am I playing this card at 4? And honestly, you can drop the ratio down to 3 or 2, but honestly, I think that sometimes sometimes having an extra 5k shield in your hand may not be the worst thing in the world.
It's definitely something to consider, considering the fact that you could choose to still discard him to open the right deck. So playing 4 generally means that you're almost 100% confirmed to have this at your center back position. So it's not a bad idea, I would say. Let's go to Protoball.
Yes, Protoball, the true MVP of this deck.
Wait, I thought Jared was the MVP.
No, mistaken. Gear Chronicle is always superior.
I understand.
So right. As you can see, what's his name? What is it? Okay, so the second Gear Chronicle representative of this deck has a skill of when you're in Final Rush, and when you're in Final Rush, when at the end of the attack that you boosted, Counterblast 1. You put a railgun in the soul to pull out a card from the soul into your hand. So let's say luck has given you a very bad day and you soul charge your over trigger. Well, now you can take the over trigger back into your hand. Now isn't that just great? Or it may even be worse. It may even worse. You want a persona, right? Oh, don't worry, because Protoball will also give you back the card, the Bruce or PG or Jared. It really just lets you toolbox your entire soul, and it solves one of the biggest problems that Bruce has had from the start deck, which is that, I soul charge all my key pieces, I guess I'm going to die.
Yeah, Protoball is definitely something that Bruce would end up playing until it gets a direct upgrade in terms of a better toolboxer. But it's definitely something that I recommend for Bruce players because, like what you said, toolboxing the soul, really good.
Yeah.
So, that's that. See, Bruce is so straightforward. This deck profile has become really fast. The thing is, Bruce is not straightforward. There are complexities to this deck, but in terms of what you play, it's straightforward. Yes. But we do have some tech choices in the trigger lineup. 3 draw, 4 heal, 1
base over 3.
Base OT. We play a total of what?
7
fronts and 1 crit. So let's discuss. I have to do some. Obaria, why are we playing Obaria? The thing is that, yes, the Dark State Sortie, pretty good, 3 Force 1, 3 Force 2. I understand why people like the Rising Nova Dragon, but the thing is that Obaria also does have its benefits, and that is that if you drive check this guy, you generally just choose 2 units, it gets 100 million, it becomes 2 attacks, PG or die, which really helps, especially with the fact that you play stuff like Jared. And you may wonder, why does this matter bringing up Jared? It does for one very easy reason. It means that you on turn 2 onwards will have an early board presence. Even if you get a plus 10k, if I now tell you get 100 million instead for 2 instant connecting attacks, I think that's a lot better. And it only scales even better when you reach turn 3 and turn 4, when you can use stuff like Bruce, You have 2 decently sized attacks in the front row. Swing, 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 stand, stand. Yeah, and then if they get like 100 million, instant becomes 5 attacks, 2 of which are PG or die, which really is quite good. The base OT is really something that I see a lot of people not liking, and for good reason, because they see it as, oh, it's a budget card. Yes, but honestly, it still has its uses in a lot of other decks like Sylvans. It's still useful. I would say even Virina could still play the base OT with Valiante.
Yeah.
You could play it with stuff like I don't know.
Hexor can definitely still use.
Hexor could play it, but then again the Kettle OT is good for the drive checks. But just regardless, I still think Obaria does has its strengths for now, which is why it's still being played in at least this Bruce deck. So that's settled. For heal, cause we want
It's card 5 Vanguard.
Card 5 Vanguard. 3 draw, because we still need our pieces.
And also it's a good target to discard for the right deck.
Yeah. We play a total of 7 fronts, cause 7, right?
Yeah, 7
fronts, because as you probably know, Bruce is something that relies on multi-attacks. I know a lot of people say play crits, and I certainly agree with that, but we are just trying fronts, so don't mind us. Speaking of crits, 1 crit.
1 crit.
1 crit, it's a tech option. Actually, I don't even know why you want me playing 1 crit.
You never know. Then your opponent says no guard, and then you just show this, and then they are 4 damage, and then they just quit the tournament that they are currently playing. How about that?
Sure. So that was our meme, but actually pretty legit Bruce deck. A lot of our options don't make sense at first glance, and really I'm still figuring out why this deck is even built. But there is something that is unmistakable whether you like this deck or not, and that is that Jared, honestly, is just really good with Bruce. Moving forward into DBTO2, we have stuff like Ronaldo and Mabel, which help the deck, but I actually still think Jared will still be played. What do you think?
I think Jared is definitely a staple for the deck, because it definitely helps Bruce with early aggression. Because in the event, because the best way to beat Final Rush is to rush the Bruce player until they really have no more options left. You throw away all their pieces, and then now they're just sitting down. Well, Jared, you can tell them, you can give them a nice Uno reverse card and make them throw away their entire hand to guard. Okay. So I think for the early game, for as long as Bruce will want to maintain its early aggression as well as have some early tech plays before, so that he can yield out all the way until its Final Rush turn, Jared will be a mainstay.
Alright. Thank you, Faye, for joining us. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like it, like, subscribe. Generally, my D content is a bit slower because, it's 10 decks in the entire format right now, and it's not like I'm going to cover Token Rumble, so yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.